All right, welcome everybody. Welcome. So today we are holding this one-day special event in commemoration of Gilbert Baumslag and Ben Fine. So April 30th would have been Gilbert's 90th birthday. And of course, Ben, he passed away unexpectedly earlier this year on March 11th. So we want to have this special tribute to both of them. I want to mention for those who maybe didn't read the announcements carefully, so because we added it only at the end. For the afternoon portion, which will be in person today at the Graduate Center, we are going to attempt to have it Zoomcast using the same Zoom link we are using now. I cannot guarantee that it will work, but we will try. So if you're interested in watching those talks, so you can try joining. With that said, I'm very pleased and honored to welcome our first speaker today, who's Gilbert's long-term collaborator, Chuck Miller from the University of Melbourne, and he is going to tell us something about collaborative mathematics. Chuck, please.
Okay, well, thank you for getting up so early. It's late here in Melbourne. It's 11 p.m. So, and it's past my bedtime, I must say. I usually go to bed a bit earlier. But anyway, I want to make some remarks today about collaborative mathematics. As Ilya said, I enjoyed a long and fruitful collaboration with Gilbert. And actually, we also wrote a paper with Ben Fine, but this is mostly with Gilbert. And so I want to tell you a bit about it and maybe even say how it came about that we collaborated, which is kind of a curious little story. But anyway, this is a history, and unfortunately, a lot of it's about me, but I don't, because my history is involved too. Anyway, let's see. First of all, I've come to think that doing mathematics is partly for the thrill, of course, of proving something new. It's a matter of discovery, but I also think it's more, think there's more to it than that. And I want to praise and encourage mathematical collaboration because I think it's beneficial for everyone. I think often several minds on a problem are better than one. But moreover, I've always enjoyed doing mathematical research with many collaborators. And I think importantly, doing research is an important social thing for me. I really enjoy the social aspect. Right here. Hello? Yes. So I enjoyed trying to do mathematics with friends, those that are mathematicians. And it's what you do naturally if you can. So it's just sort of a part of being a mathematician to me. Anyway, I want to now. I'm going to change the shared screen to a different thing because I want to show you a few slides that I got from looking at MathSciNet about collaboration. Okay. Oops. It'll be a. Oops. I'm going to share something else. That's the one I'm going to share. Now, so what are we seeing? Are we seeing a list?
No. Yes. Yeah. This is a list from MathSciNet.
Of Gilbert students?
No. Yeah, actually, it's Math Genealogy Project. Yes, that's correct. It looks like this.
Yes, that's the one. Okay, so good. I managed to change from one PDF file to another. This is, first of all, a list of Gilbert's students, which I thought everybody might have a look at. You're aware that he has a fairly large collection of students of various kinds, actually. At any rate, there are 20-some, 25. And Ilya's one. Some other people present might be as well. So at any rate, many of us have interacted with Gilbert in a research way And in particular, of course, his students have, and he was always very generous to his students, I think, and certainly helped a lot of them quite a lot. Now, but I want to point out, just here's a little graphic that I was amused by. It doesn't really mean anything, but it looks at the co-authors of papers by the number of collaborations. And so I seem to have been Gilbert's most numerous, if you like, collaborator. So I'm the number one on his list for collaboration, but he's also the number one on my list. So we're each other's most frequent collaborators, which is kind of amusing. At any rate, just to complete the picture, here's Ben Fines. He was Ben Fines' most frequent collaborator was Gerhard Rosenberger, and Tony Gaglione is a bit further down. Okay, and incidentally, well, I'll come back to that, but. And finally, Martin Bridson, who's a speaker later this morning, is also a frequent collaborator of mine, and to a lesser extent Gilbert, but he and I have collaborated quite a bit, but he has many other collaborators too. Martin's very productive, and of course Gilbert was very productive, more productive than I was for sure. Okay. At any rate, what I want to say about this is that we each had a large number of collaborators, and Gilbert was a lot more productive than I was. Sorry, what are we seeing the slides now?
Well, I'm not sure. We're still seeing the list of Gilbert students.
Oh, okay. Whoop. Well, maybe I better stop sharing. And share again. Boop. How did I manage to do this? Mess it up.
What happened to the slide? I don't see the slide anymore.
Yeah, there we go. I got it back. Okay.
All right, we can see the slide.
Excellent. Thank you. All right. So we've each had a large number of collaborators, but Gilbert was definitely more productive. And it's touchy. But we enjoyed a productive and enjoyable collaboration over many years. And he was, of course, a very talented mathematician, and he was generous as a person in many ways and a collaborator. And he was a wonderful friend for me. But I want to go back and try to explain how and under what circumstances this collaboration started. Just kind of maybe just for a gossip or amusing, maybe it'd be entertained. So long before I began to collaborate with Gilbert, I had some interactions, and it started when I first started graduate school. After, like many people, after my undergraduate days, I was at a loss for what I was going to do, and so I went to. I ended up going to get a master's degree at NYU, not because I was that keen on mathematics, but mostly because that's what I could get in and do, and so forth. So I took an algebra course in the first semester. I was there for 3 semesters. I took an algebra course from Gilbert in the first one, and then the next year I took 2 topics. I enjoyed Gilbert. I enjoyed the course, but I thought he was a really good lecturer. But nonetheless, NYU is a strange place to be a graduate student because they believed in differential equations and mainly only differential equations, and I wasn't so keen on them. So I was looking for other things to take. And in the second year that I was there, the second 2 semesters, I did a topics in group theory subject, 2-semester subject. 1 semester was cohomology of groups given by Michel Kerver. and the other was combinatorial group theory given by Gilbert. And so he gave a course covering things that was interesting. He was interested in at the time. They included decision problems. He was always pretty keen on decision problems. And he did the Ajahn-Rabin theorem, for instance, and he gave Higman's standard examples of groups with exotic properties, finitely generated simple group, and so forth. And also the non-Hopf groups that he and Solitar had constructed. And anyway, I enjoyed this course a lot, and I learned a lot about it. And what I was impressed by, I think, was that I learned you could actually build groups. You could make mathematical things with your bare hands, so to speak. And that's something I have done quite frequently, I guess, and enjoyed being able to do such things. At any rate, the following year, so after Gilbert, he told me that he wasn't going to be there anyway. He moved to City College then, into the graduate center that was starting up, and which just started then. And he was one of the foundation distinguished professors there. Hello? Oh. Anyway. All right. Anyway, so he, at any rate, I got him. So never mind. So the following year, I left and went someplace else. I started at Illinois, where Bill Boone and a lot of other people who did group theory were. And my choice was definitely influenced by Gilbert. Not that I went for any particular reason. I was just wandering about, but I thought I'd try to do a PhD. At any rate, it took me a while, but I got there. During the first semester there, I was drafted into presenting a proof of Higman's theorem, because Bill Boone, who's my supervisor eventually, wasn't there, but he wanted people to study Higman's theorem, which was quite new then. This was 1964. So, and Higman's theorem was published in 62. So he wanted people to understand it. So I was drafted into do it because I had done this course with Gilbert, so I had the right sort of background for it. I understood about HNN things and amalgamated products and all that stuff. So anyway, I did this, and then eventually Bill came back from his stay at the Institute, and he brought Don Collins with him, and Don was working on the word problem and the Boone-Britton groups, and he showed something nice about their conjugacy. And I was pretty inspired. So Don and I worked on a number of things together, mostly simplifying some of these proofs. And it was a lot of fun to work with him. At any rate, then in the summer of '67, Don and Paul Shoup and I, went with Bill Boone to Göttingen, where we spent, it was about 6 weeks. And we interacted some with the math department there, but we also ran our own seminar, which is a daily tutorial and feeding off of each other. And that was a really good collaboration for the three of us. We learned a lot. And I continued the collaboration when we went back to Illinois with Paul Shoup for the last couple of years. Oop. Okay. Yeah. Then I spent a year as a post. I finished a degree eventually. Finally, it took me forever. But sorry, wait a minute. Boop, boop. So Paul and I continued to collaborate while I was at the Institute, and then he was at the Courant visiting Magnus, and so I met Magnus at that time, which was really nice. Magnus was very helpful and kind to me over many years, and then I spent a year as a postdoc in Oxford with Graham Higman, and he gave a prevailed upon me to give a lecture course to graduate students, and I more or less tried to give as much close to what I remembered of Gilbert's course as I could, and it worked out pretty well. It was pretty popular, so that's nice. And then I returned to Princeton for a 5-year stay before coming to Melbourne. Now, this is all by way of a whoops. Oh, hello. Hello. Oop. Oop. Okay. So I want to now relate how Gilbert and I came to collaborate, because this is kind of an entertaining thing. So in the meantime, I had not seen Gilbert much at all, even though he was a very, very big influence in how I became a mathematician and all that. I really had not had any interaction with him. And then in 1974, I had two bits of interaction. One was we went to a conference in Calgary, and I remember that Gilbert and his new wife Mary were there at the time, and Mary had a lovely T-shirt on called "Keep" with a saying on the back of it, saying "Keep groups torsion free," which I thought was a great T-shirt. Anyway, I was amused by this. I'm easily amused sometimes. Anyway, so after that, he was at City College, and we interacted. I saw him a few times at the group theory seminar, and he rang me up one day saying, bragging about this construction that he and Frank Cananito had given, because he thought he was pretty sure I'd be interested. And their group was supposedly locally free, but couldn't be embedded in a finitely presented group. I tried to describe the construction, but I couldn't follow it. So just as well. It turned out this construction was simply wrong, because I went a few days I thought about it for a few days, and then I was able to conjure up a proof of the following theorem, that a countable locally free group can be embedded in a finitely presented group. And in fact, the embedding method is quite general and enables you to embed use a lot of local embeddings that are effective to put together into a global embedding. And Gilbert, after a while, he agreed that I might be right, and that we should join forces, and we eventually published 4 papers on these and related topics, and it took us a while to work it all out, but it was pretty productive and enjoyable. And so that's how we came to work together because of a mistake, which is kind of amusing. Anyway, yes. And over many, so for many years, then after that, we had a rather casual collaboration. I moved to Melbourne, and oops, what did I say? Oh, left out something there. Okay. So my times at Melbourne were filled with all sorts of things, administration and other duties, and involvement in public schools, and all sorts of other things that didn't have much to do with mathematical research. But I used to regularly come to New York and work with Gilbert fairly frequently. So we enjoyed this frequent interaction, and we collaborated on projects over many years. And let's see. So he really had a knack for figuring out where you could make a little progress in some area. So we would look at some problem that he was interested in, and thought we should make a little progress, and it worked out pretty well usually. And they weren't all trivial problems either. We managed to do some pretty good stuff. Okay. maybe not the greatest things going, but nonetheless, good progress. Okay. Now, the other thing I want to should say about Gilbert, so aside from being a good friend over the years and so forth, is that he had many other interesting talents and so forth. He was really a rather talented athlete, I believe. Certainly, as a younger person, he was in South Africa. He was quite a strong cricketer, and he might have become a professional. He had to decide at one stage whether he wanted to do that or not. And I was also told by people who played squash with him that he was a really talented squash player. Yeah, I also remember in 1994 or something, we went to a cricket. I went to a cricket game with him at Lord's as the first cricket match that South Africa played against England after the years of apartheid, which was really quite interesting. And there were lots of South Africans who came to the cricket then, because it was a big social event, big relief somehow, cultural relief to get out from under apartheid and be accepted back into the cricket community. Anyway, there's one other aspect of his personality that I admired, and I wanted to say a few words about it. I, of course, went around New York with him a lot, and just as friends do when I was visiting him, and there's many things that I've left out about Case and all the Magnus computer business and so forth. But in all these travels, we had to go to a lot of places where went to an office where some official was having to deal with a counter and was clearly, I should say, their life was not so wonderful, and they had to deal with these fools on the other side of the counter. So, but Gilbert had this nice way of making people like that in that circumstance feel at home, and that they were sort of appreciated, and that he at least appreciated the fact that their life was a bit dreary or inconvenient sometimes. And anyway, he often chatted to them in a positive way and made them feel at ease and make their lives feel a little brighter. And so he was spreading a little bit of joy around the world. And I was always impressed with this talent that he had, and it made people feel good who came in touch with him. And I confronted him about this once and asked him, how do you do this? What do you do? And he told me that he really thinks it was really a defense mechanism, that it enabled him to confront the circumstance. And it was less goodwill than trying to put some barrier between himself and the world. So I thought that was quite interesting. Anyway, it certainly made people feel better. In any event, he was a great collaborator, and I recommend collaboration for everyone. Everyone should try to have collaborators if you can. It's good. Anyway, I think that's about all I have to say today. Thanks.
All right. Thank you very much, Chuck. So if somebody has a very quick question, we probably have about a minute for doing that. So if somebody has a question or a quick comment, you can unmute yourself and speak up.
I have a question.
Yes.
It seems like in the 1960s, combinatorial group theory was developing kind of parallel to the classification of finite simple groups. And I was just wondering if you were influenced by that other major development in group theory, or any of your collaborators.
Yeah, I was always more interested in logic, actually. And it's the decision problems aspect that attracted me. And that's what Gilbert, in this combinatorial group theory thing, class that I took, Gilbert emphasized that and you know, explained what it all meant and proved Ajahn Rabin and some other things. And the finite simple group stuff never appealed to me quite so much. Then I went to Illinois, and of course they were a lot of them were pretty keen on that, on finite simple groups. And I mean, John Walter and Suzuki were there and so forth. And so I did take some courses in it, but it never attracted me in the same way. And there's a lot of representation theory too. So anyway, they were that of course is a very important development in group theory, but it's not something that I was involved in or tempted by. It was quite technical. Yeah. I think I like things that are simple and you can make with your hands, so to speak. Yes.
All right. Okay, let's thanks, Chuck, again. Thank you. So, Chuck, could you stop sharing the screen?